We don't really want to, I just want to get away, sit right next to you.
This one is a doozy. I've had guy friends that are married say they gotten to the point that they feel like their spouse is not sexually compatible with them.
Let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's
All right. We're gonna do this or not. All right.
Okay.
Sexually incompatible. Like, is it a thing? Is it possible to be sexually incompatible? Let's start with that.
Oh, you asking me?
I'm asking you. I'm asking you. Is it possible?
I mean, not with me and you.
All right. So I would say this. I think it is possible for you to begin a relationship and feel like you're sexually incompatible.
Okay.
Especially because a lot of people coming into relationships have prior experience. And so if someone has more experience than one person, another person has less experience, that's just one thing that creates a divide or creates some inconsistency and incongruency in a relationship. Another thing that happens—
You sound like a scientist. Inconsistency and inconsistency.
Sorry.
Say what you mean and mean what you say.
I'm saying, like, but also just even as the marriage goes, people's desires change, needs change, bodies change. And so there could come a place, and then people— there's so much things, so many factors that I want to say. You got porn, you got so much.
I feel like if you don't know, you don't know. But
and it would have been better. Ignorance would have been bliss when it came to sex.
it would, because you both could learn together.
And if you didn't know what was like, if nobody ever made you swoon and had you shaking and all that type of stuff in your past, when you came into this situation, you just be like, well,
it's kind of blase.
No, it feels great to me. That's it.
But I think a class really needs to be given for Christians.
We're gonna do it. We're gonna create a class that's gonna help Christians,
because they have it in the world.
They do. In fact, we were searching for it, because we're going to have a conference soon.
Yeah.
That's just going to teach Christians how to explore
But
each
we
other.
can't find it. If y'all know a Christian that teach a healthy sex class, and I don't mean just talk about sex.
They talk about
I mean showing it. No, okay, I said it wrong. I didn't mean to say show it, but give some demonstrations with some tools, like some
She actually has a puppet show in mind.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. I'm not thinking about anybody getting on the stage and showing it. But if you guys know anybody, we would love for you guys to connect them to us, because we don't want to show it. But if you don't feel no type of way, we will. We will. I just really feel like we can help some people out there, because if you're saying it hurt, okay, well then he needs to be a little bit more gentle. If he's saying you're not a freak enough, then you need to let it come out.
But here's the thing. I'll say
Let's
this.
be more serious.
Yeah, I'll be more serious about on this side. A lot of people say, a lot of women I've heard, the conversation of purity culture, if you've heard of that, that's what the movement where it teaches women mainly, keep yourself from marriage. Sex is bad. Don't talk about sex. Don't discuss sex. Don't think about yourself as a sexual being. When it comes down to marriage, and when it finally, the honeymoon night, they're just like, I don't want that.
Yeah.
I don't. And so it is. I used to think that's bullcrap. But the truth about it is, if you're conditioned, I call it discipled. If you're discipled a particular way, you can't expect someone to go into the situation and just turn into an all-out freak once they jump into the bedroom.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. Purity culture has done its number on marriages, especially women, because it isolates women and directs most of the teaching to women, but allows men to sexually explore.
So what I hear you saying is, teach your spouse. Explore their bodies.
Yeah.
Get to know what feels good to them.
That also, and have conversations before you're married so that you can identify what might be there. There might be some strongholds sexually that might not be there.
Like
what I'm
some
saying
trauma
is
issues.
trauma.
Yeah.
So we don't talk about sexual trauma. There are men and women that have been sexually traumatized, and there are certain acts, certain positions, certain things that just trigger things for people. So you have to be sensitive. That's why having conversations, especially when it comes to you're getting serious or you're engaged, if you're not having conversations, serious conversations about sexual history history, sexual trauma, sexual teachings that you've heard. Like, I've heard we can't do this and can't do that. And your spouse is like, oh, I was really looking forward to that in marriage. Or I know I will never do this. Or these are the type of experiences that I've had and they're triggering right now. So you going into that situation and trying to engage feels different. Or you might have had a sexual experience with different genders. We don't talk about that enough. How can that impact, and how would that impact the person that you're about to be with? There has to be more conversations.
A lot of layers.
Man, it's so many layers to peel back. So one thing I will say is be gracious. When it comes to sexual exploration and discovery, you can't expect that your spouse is going to understand everything, is going to know how to please you. 3, you can't expect that they're completely deprogrammed from their past. I'm going to say this. I believe in the same way that our bodies have muscle memory, I believe our bodies have sexual memory.
Yeah, I do.
And even unconsciously and subconsciously, there are certain things that could cause us to feel discontentment in our marital bed because of our sexual memory. So in the gym, if I'm someone who has spent time in the gym, I've worked out particular areas of muscle, all I have to do is continue to go back to the gym and stimulate it just a little bit. And what happens is those muscles begin to encourage my body to grow. In fact, they grow faster when I come back to the gym and, work those body parts out. And you realize, oh, I can get back into that rhythm a lot easier because my muscles are encouraging it to grow. In the same way with sexual memory, imagine going into sexual activity with your spouse and your sexual memory is triggering it to other people. And so there are other desires that are saying, I want you to go back to this, and you're going into something else, and now there's conflict. There's sexual conflict and disconnect because your body is calling and your body is trying to remind you about other instances that you had. And that's why I say promiscuity, and we're going to talk about porn in a little bit. Promiscuity is one of the greatest weapons that you can have against your marriage even before you get married. Because you're training your body to remember everyone that you lay with. You're training your body to encourage you to desire something about the people that you lay with. And so people are like, soul ties, soul ties, soul ties. Yes, because your body and your soul work in an intertwined way, because God called us to be one. And if you're practicing the act of oneness without actual oneness, there's going to be disheveling, there's going to be conflict. And pornography. Let's stop acting like women haven't spent time watching porn as well. And so there are so many sexual expectations that men have, and they get into their marital bed and they be like, my wife is not a freak. Because they watch somebody do flips and hang off a chandelier and their wife not doing it.
What about, because I watch a documentary, I talk about this, all the time openly with people. What about if they watch so much porn, and not just my wife's not a freak, but they don't even get aroused because of all the things that they have experienced through porn?
Man, I've had people directly message me and say, I'm having a hard time getting aroused. I can only climax with myself. I can only climax with porn. I can't climax with my wife. And you begin to start to turn your eye and point the finger at your spouse to say, there's something that they're not doing. There's an area that they're lacking. But like I talked about, you're discipling yourself for pornography. And while you program yourself, your body is going to respond to that programming. So you spend all your time masturbating and watching all of these images that increases your dopamine. By the time you get to your marital bed, it's going to be blah. Because what you saw stimulated things that were not supposed to be stimulated. You saw things in high, vivid HD footage and color. You're seeing parts that you don't even see. Like when you're actually engaged in that, you're seeing parts of another human that you wouldn't be able to see. So you're never going to be able to replicate the actors on that screen. So you come to reality, into your marriage bed, and you're going to be discontent. And so many men are gathering these demons. They're gathering this programming that's going to bring them into marriage, and they're going to be dissatisfied and also discontent with themselves. You go in, the guys on the thing are fully in shape and they look a lot bigger than you in certain areas, and you're like, well, maybe I got to do this, or maybe I'm not that, or maybe my wife is not this. It's completely, it is so destructive to the human psyche. It does not help, and it takes you to a place of destruction.
But I do believe there's hope. Even though I don't struggle with that, I do believe in the same God that has the power to heal a sickness can also heal in the marital bed.
Yes.
And you took maybe about 15 years programming yourself like this. So it might take another 15 years to deprogram yourself. But I remember, just a little bit, I don't know if you follow me on social media, if you don't, I never thought I would break the habit of having a milkshake. At least I was doing good. I said, all right, I'm only do it every other day instead of every day. Because the milkshake was like my release. I've never smoked a cigarette in my life. But that milkshake, oh my goodness. My husband could tell you I was going to give me a milkshake.
Yeah, milkshake queen.
I haven't had a milkshake. I don't know when the last time I had one.
That's good.
And it took some time.
Yeah.
It did not happen overnight. It went to every other day to once a week. Okay, I'll get one once a month. Now I don't even need one. I've switched over to smoothies, and I'm not always drinking smoothies. So it does take time, but you have to put into the work.
Yeah.
You have to put in the work.
Absolutely.
In order to achieve a goal.
Yeah, and you have the power to curate an appetite. Like literally, how do you curate an appetite? By feeding yourself what's causing the appetite. The more that you digest it, the more that you take that in, the more that you're gonna want it. The less that you take it in, the less that you want it. Like the idea of porn right now, I used to be addicted to pornography. It disgusts me for no reason except the fact that I had to create distance between me and pornography, distance between me and those old habits, and it became to deprogram me against porn and drive me towards my wife. And it's probably to a fault, because I want my wife to an extreme level because my attention has now turned to her. I want to talk about the fact that, so many people are experiencing dissatisfaction because they're not communicating.
Yeah.
A lot of people think that naturally your spouse is going to know how to please you, or they're experiencing what you're experiencing. If you're not communicating, man, I'm talking to you. If you're not talking to your wife and asking her, how does this feel? Afterwards, me and her, I do it during the process. I'm like, do you like this? You like this? You like this? You like that? How about this? You like this? What's better? This or this? This or this? This or this? The entire time. And so I'm trying, my goal there is I want to please her. And if both individuals come into intimacy saying, I want to please you, you're going to have a more satisfying experience at the end. But if you're going in to get yours, then chances are your spouse is not satisfied. Do you ask questions? Women, even for your husband, do you ask, how could that be? How could that be better? How can I make this better? And I'll say this, if a woman is asking from a pure place, make sure you're responding from a pure place. Make sure that when you're answering, you're not like, well, I'm thinking about this porn star and they did this. No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying take your past and now impose it on your spouse. And now you're expecting her to do stuff that just violates who she is as an individual. Don't disrespect your spouse in her catering and trying to serve you sexually. Yeah.
I love that. And I mean, who doesn't want to be pleased?
Come on. Yeah. And even like for the women, like I did a poll on my Instagram and I asked the women, how many of you guys receive a climax from your husband? It was so disappointing that it was a great majority of in marriages, wives, only a small percentage of wives are getting to climax with their spouses. And my question is, why is that? Why is that? These are the same women that have climax in their life. How is it possible that you have climax? You know what it takes to get you to climax, but your spouse is not getting you to climax? That's both y'all fault.
Yeah.
It's both y'all fault. It's him not listening and you not talking. So it's really important, because I think some women express that. I feel like if I tell him that he's not doing good, it's going to hurt his ego.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you rather take all the burden and the offense instead of actually communicating, so that way everyone can thrive.
Yeah. That's like you're punishing yourself. And so yeah, you will hurt his ego if you tell him in a terrible way, but you could communicate graciously. Hey, babe, I like when you do this. And I like when you're focused when you do this. You really got a lot of passion when you do this. But this is, if you did this more, or even have a session, like have a study session where y'all just say, hey, okay, don't do that as much. That hurts. Or try this more. Oh, that feels better. Oh, if you keep doing this, I might be able to. You got to try stuff and get to that place where you're going to reach that together. It's a beautiful journey as you guys discover each other and learn together. But if you keep your mouth closed, scripture says, and if I say this, I feel like it's going to be a pause moment. Closed mouths don't get fed. I don't know. Was that a pause moment?
The scripture don't say that though.
I say scripture? Okay, I said the same, right?
The scripture of Azonwu.
Okay, in my bedroom.
Yeah.
Closed mouth. I said the scripture or that's the saying?
You said a scripture.
Oh, my bad. Okay, it's a saying.
The Bible don't tell us that. The Bible don't tell us.
I mean, seriously, it says knock, and the door shall be open unto you. See?
Yeah, all right. Now
and you shall find. Okay,
now
look, it's there. So I think overall, communication, when it comes to the sexual trauma, when it comes to anything that can inhibit you guys from exploring and diving into sex in a way that you guys can both receive pleasure, communication, and humility. Both of you guys be in a position where you're willing to learn. Take your time. You might not get it overnight, but if you guys commit to communication and humility, being willing to learn, oh, y'all gonna get far.
And this is one of those areas you need to invest. We'll invest in, someone to fix our credit. We'll invest in a house. We'll invest in our kids' education or their extracurricular activities. But this is one of those times where you need to take the time to invest. Sit down and maybe learn the hot spots for a woman.
There you go.
Learn the hot spots for a man.
Hello?
They got so many things on Google that you can look at if you do not know.
Stay in the educational section.
Yeah. If you are ignorant and do not know and just never explored that. So do it together. So that way you guys are like, oh, let's try that tonight, or we're going to try that next week. Whenever you find your intimate time with each other, take the time to invest.
In education, I love that. Do it together. Don't go into your corner because you could go in a rabbit hole and you
he'd be like, that ain't never been my spot.
So and then like you just said, you said that'll never been my spot. You got to recognize that your spouse is your spouse. There might be things that you see online that says, do this, put her foot right here. And she's just like, I don't need that. I don't want that. That hurts. I don't want that. Don't try to impose anything on her. And the last thing I'll say is people always question, well, why don't I just bring a toy in? I had a guy who DM'd me and said, I can't help my wife get there. So, she just, she take care of herself after I get mine. I'm just like, what a horrible existence to be in a place where you guys are not the people that are bringing each other to that place. I would say this, there's, I guess, conflict on the issue of should married people use toys in the bedroom. I'll say this is what I would say. I think that you guys need to invest, like my wife said, into exploring each other, being patient enough to learn each other amongst each other as priority. That needs to be the focus, because if you start delving and diving, you'll find yourself being more inclined to take the easy way out or the quick way out rather than the process and what it takes to actually learn intimacy amongst each other. I say that I would be more cautious against toys because there are things that the toys can do that you will never be able to do. Your tongue, your hands, your body can't move at 100 beats per second the way these vibrators and all these things can move. And if you try to introduce that, imagine she begins to start relying on that for use. And even you, man, there are things and toys and all types of devices that you could take to the bathroom and experience without your spouse. So because of that temptation that's there, I think to keep the temptation out of your bedroom, focus on using each other, focus on learning each other so that you guys can get to that place. There might be some things that might help you, maybe with height differences and stuff like that. There might be some things that you guys can do together, but I would caution more people against that stuff to avoid temptation. So it would be a definite last result. Maybe there's some medical complications that help, some lubrication, whatever, I don't know. But I would say focus on doing what you can amongst each other.